Welcome to Answers for Living. We know that Jesus was crucified, dead, and buried. Then what happened? The next phrase in the Apostles' Creed says, the third day he rose from the dead. Why did they put that phrase in? Why is it important? Well, let's explore that for the next couple days. The first lie about the empty tomb was the lie that the guards of Jesus propagated. Matthew chapter 28 says this, that they were to tell them, the people, the disciples stole the body while you were sleeping. Well, first, the guards would not be sleeping. If you were a Roman guard and you fell asleep, the other soldiers were to light you on fire. We also know that Jesus' body wasn't stolen by the disciples because we know he showed up with at least 10 physical appearances to different groups of people after Easter morning. The scripture records that he showed up to Mary Magdalene in the garden. He then showed up to women returning from the tomb after they saw the angels. He showed up to Peter. He showed up to 2 people on the road to Emmaus and spent hours with them. He showed up to the disciples and other people who were in the house, but Thomas wasn't there. He showed up to the disciples and Thomas was there. He showed up to 7 disciples at the Sea of Galilee. He showed up to more than 500 followers at one time. 500 people do not have the same illusion or hallucination. And James, he showed up to his brother James, and then he showed up to the 11 disciples at his ascension. The writers of the Apostles' Creed wanted the church to repeat as a creed the all-important truth that Jesus rose on the 3rd day. Now that's important because since the time of Christ and his resurrection, there have been numerous false teachers. And they didn't just stop back in the 1st century. We have them in our generation. For instance, the Jehovah's Witnesses. They teach that Jesus was crucified and died, but Jesus didn't rise physically. There was a non-physical resurrection, just a spirit being. There's another person by the name of Bishop John Shelby Spong. He thinks the resurrection is irrelevant. This is a quote. As a child, I took for granted that Easter meant that Jesus literally rose from the dead. I now see Easter very differently. For me, it is irrelevant whether or not the tomb was empty. Whether Easter involves something remarkable happening to the physical body of Jesus is irrelevant. So we have those people out there that teach that Jesus didn't rise from the dead. The Creed says he did. He rose on the 3rd day. There's a theologian by the name of N.T. Wright, and he is a conservative. And he's talking about the resurrection of Jesus. Listen to what he said. Once people have gone by the road of death, they do not return. The word resurrection was not one way of describing what death consisted of. The word resurrection was a way of describing something everyone knew did not happen. The idea that death could be reversed, undone, could, as it were, work backwards. Not even in myth was it permitted. But Jesus did rise from the dead on the 3rd day. And when people heard about the resurrection, they knew emphatically they were talking about the body coming out of the grave fully alive. It was a miracle.